Welcome to the premiere episode of The Big N, where the only topic of conversation is Nintendo. I'm Michael Rowan.
I'm Nathan Lee.
And this is The Big N. The Big N is your home for news, personal essays, debates, and in-depth reviews of games. It's everything you want on a company people love, and love to hate. We are here to cut through the drama, the flame wars, and the speculation to give you exactly what you want. The open place to discuss Nintendo and critically examine a company that has been many of our lives since day one.
In this episode, we will examine the recent news around the release of the NX and the delay of Zelda. We will briefly look over some recent releases and what's coming around the corner. Our Big N review this week is Star Fox Zero, a game that both of us were excited for, but left neither of us satisfied. But first, let me give you a little background on the two of us. So, as for me, I've been playing video games since I was around 5 years old, my first console being the NES. One of the games that solidified my love for Nintendo, and up until now, was the Pokemon games. At 5 years old, I was playing Pokemon Red, and each year a new Pokemon game came out, I would be playing one. As a 90s kid, I grew up in the age of where Pokemon was king, and following the games naturally made me a fan. Growing up, I was surrounded by kids who loved Pokemon, and as such, that only grew my love for the series. Even when Sony and Microsoft began to gain momentum over the years, during the years of the GameCube, my love of Super Smash Bros. Melee, which became my new favorite game, shone through, and then all the way up until now, even through my teenage years when the Wii was a thing. Even now, my Wii library of games is huge and outnumbers my 360 and PS3 libraries combined.
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing Nintendo games for 18 plus years. My first game was Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Color, and Mario Kart 64 for the N64. And I've pretty much stuck with Nintendo since. I guess I wouldn't say I'm proud, but I've never been interested enough to buy a console from Sony or I guess now Microsoft. And I'm pretty much intend to stick with Nintendo until, the rest of my life. It has most of the games. It has a tone and a substance and just a pure joy playing the games that I just don't find anywhere else. Whether that's Pokemon or Mario or Zelda or Donkey Kong, Nintendo's always brought me joy in my life. It's something that's going to continue, hopefully, as I keep playing games. And it's something that led us to making this podcast, right, Nathan?
Yeah.
So, that's where we are, and we hope the Big N, through every episode, can bring you some of that joy as we look through Nintendo and just talk about where they're going and looking back at some of the best moments in the company.
Alright, so let's get started with the meat of our podcast. So, we're going to start first with, actually just today, at the time of shooting, it's May 10th, I believe?
Yep.
Yes, right? So, this morning we had Pokemon Sun and Moon news come through. And we had treated a couple of trailers that showed off the new starter Pokemon. And I think it was a nice little Japanese one where they had a little kid just learning to be included. And he thought it was different, but Pokemon was a common theme with all kids, so...
Yes, buy Pokemon and you'll somehow suddenly make friends. And
hey man, that's what I was just talking about. I was a kid and I wasn't always included in stuff, but Pokemon was just a thing that all of us share. A love for Pokemon all of us shared. So
yeah, no, I'm not gonna say it brings people together, and I guess it brings people of all ages for a game and a series that hasn't changed much since for the last, what is it now, almost 20 years.
20 years,
really,
20th anniversary.
It's still the same 3 or 4 elements that have repeated every generation.
But hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, hey, I'm excited for a Pokemon game. Like, it's gonna be fun. They're always fun. I just know that the most exciting thing will be, I see character customization, and maybe we'll get a few adjustments for moves. And now it's in, I guess, a Hawaii location, but it's still gonna be 8 gyms, Elite Four, some evil team, kid going on a personal journey. Tried and true method, but hey, that's why the company makes all this money.
That's why last year they made $2.1 billion.
Yeah.
On pretty much all Pokemon merchandise across the world.
So, but it's coming out in November. It's gonna be one of Nintendo's big releases, and we'll have more when they release more details.
Yeah. As of right now, it's like the only really big release they have for the fall season. Until we have to wait till a Nintendo Direct, hopefully during the summer, so we can learn more about games coming out in the fall. Kimishima, the president of Nintendo, said that they will have more games for the 3DS in the fall, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we'll get.
Well, we can't say the same about the Wii U or the NX, apparently.
No, so a little while ago, we had news about the NX come out from Nintendo, If anyone hasn't heard, the NX will release in March of 2017. It'll be their new console, but they haven't given any specific details about what it's going to be. It will not be at E3, which is a surprising move. And the only thing that will be at E3 will be Zelda on the Wii U. And also another thing they announced was Zelda will be on the NX and the Wii U will launch at the same time.
Well, big surprise.
Yeah, a lot of people expected it, but this is the official announcement. Then, but they said it will be a simultaneous launch, but they also didn't specify that Zelda will be out at launch of the NX. They just said 2017.
Oh, it's gonna be out at launch. Like
you better hope it to be out.
Why
at launch.
else would they move it to the NX? It's just like Twilight Princess.
You really have to hope it'll be out at launch.
Yeah, it's gonna be out at launch. I mean,
yeah, hopefully. And then they also announced 2 mobile games at the same time: Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem. So we'll get to that a little later. But first, we want to talk about the NX.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of, I guess, expectation and controversy around the NX and what's Nintendo's position in the gaming market, and delaying it to 2017. I think only having Zelda E3. Of course, that's not what anyone really wants to see. They want to see 10 or 15 games being shown at E3 and watching gameplay videos all day long.
Press conferences about all the games coming out.
And we're not getting that, and it's obviously not a good move. But in terms of options Nintendo had, I do think it was a good option in the sense of they can't go to E3 and show off a new console and have 1 or 2 games in development like Zelda and 1 or 2 things that people are sort of interested in. They can't. They have to have 6 or 7 or 8 good and interesting games ready to go at launch or within the 6-month launch window that people are going to be excited for. When the Wii U came out, we got 2D Mario, another one, and we got Nintendo Land. And Pikmin 3 like 6 or 8 months later in August. That was it, and that was not to get people excited for the Wii U. Putting the issues with the Wii U aside, and there's a lot of people have already sort of given up on Nintendo. Or after the Wii and the Wii U, they've sort of expressed doubts on having confidence in this company, or at least as a company that is for the gamers of today, people who are our age, so in their 20s, or people who are much younger.
Yeah.
And I think that means Nintendo needs to be bold. They need to have all the cards out there. It means they need to have the games. They need to have a good console reveal. And I think another thing to say is E3. It's not as important as it used to be. It's 2016. You can just put a really good video on YouTube now, and I think that does more than enough to get your product out there than having a bunch of nosy reporters at E3 asking questions about your product. So, and also at E3 it's crowded. There's a lot of people making announcements. Wouldn't Nintendo rather have their own space where there's nothing else going on, then everyone could focus on their games and products instead of having competition with the other companies?
Yeah,
so that's what I think. I think obviously I'd like to see more games outside of Zelda, and I still think we're going to see something around that period, especially for the 3DS. But Nintendo needs to be bold, and this could work out for them.
Yeah. So. As for me, I don't mind the late to 2017 either. Unfortunately, this does mean that both 2015 and 2016 are going to be really, really slow for the Wii U. But I mean,
that's nothing new.
Yeah, it's nothing new, but that means it's clear that Nintendo's pretty much just saying, no, we're done with this. And then they're also going to miss the launch window, the holiday launch window for the NX, which is kind of a big deal because you want to launch that product in, around the holidays when people will buy it just as presents for their kids. Actually, I was watching a podcast about a little while ago when they were discussing the NX, and they brought up a point that no Nintendo product has ever launched in the February or March. They usually launch in holiday. The earliest that console has ever launched, I think they said, was the Super Nintendo in August. That was the earliest.
August.
Yeah, that was the earliest a console ever launched for Nintendo. So having it in March is the only other console that came out around that holiday around that area around that time was the 3DS, which came out I believe in February. Which is another weird launch, but while the Wii U, while the NX missing the holiday launch window is kind of a big deal. I still think that the NX will have more of an impact if it has better games at launch instead of just saying, "Oh, we'll have 2 games," and we gotta wait till March for everything else.
And no third-party support.
Yeah, so you might as well just hold off and just release it in March when you have games. This way, people actually go out and buy the quality games right away. And missing E3 is also it sucks that we're not going to be able to see like, because E3 is the grand stage still. Like, it's as you mentioned, it's not as relevant as it used to be, but E3 is still the one gaming convention that everybody really pays attention to. Like, the Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom are big, but I feel like it doesn't get nearly as much coverage as E3.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was just Zelda there. It'll be great seeing Zelda for the first time in a real big capacity. Like, it's the first time we'll see footage of Zelda since 2014, which they showed at the Game Awards.
Well, I'm excited for it. I mean, this is in some ways maybe one of the games sort of meant for the Wii U, but I guess now it's Wii U/NX.
Wii U/NX. They still don't have a name for it. I'm hoping they have that at E3.
I'm sure it will. Well, if it's the only game to be featured there, I think we're gonna get a name at the very least.
Yeah, and pretty much rumors about Nintendo trying to be bold. There's a lot of rumors saying that the NX is going to be a powerful system, which I really hope it is, because I believe this is Nintendo's real big shot at. Because I feel like if it's an underpowered console again, then people are really going to just give up and just say Nintendo's like just not going to cater to us anymore. So I think this is almost like the make it or break it console for Nintendo. Wii U is kind of like a mulligan, saying that it was just like, no, we'll take our shot and make an underpowered console, and we'll see how people react, and then we'll see it go from there. But now the NX has the real shots, because now that the Wii U's done, Nintendo has to say, okay, we understand the Wii U didn't work, and now we're going to address your problems with our consoles being underpowered. So I really hope that that's what happens.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see. And as we mentioned before, they also announced the 2 new mobile games. So we got past, Miitomo, their whatever Street Pass style like game for phones, and now I guess we got 2 real games. We hope, are Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem. And Animal Crossing to me makes perfect sense to be on a phone. I think it's one of the games that best made use of the 3DS. I think for a game that you might play for 15 minutes, half an hour per day, perfect for a phone, perfect for people on the go. Fire Emblem, I'm not too sure. I'm just wondering, could a full Fire Emblem game work on a phone? Can that experience really be reduced to a phone? What do you think?
I agree with you there. Like, the Animal Crossing, I almost think of it like seeing how Miitomo was. I feel like Animal Crossing can just do kind of the same thing, but with probably a lot more games, hopefully, than Miitomo. Miitomo was just at like 1, and everybody got bored really fast. But yeah, and then Fire Emblem's a game it's not really well suited to a phone. I mean, you could argue that there's lots of RPGs on phones now, and people play them all the time, but that's one that you need to really concentrate on for a phone game, which is really weird. But how they will adapt it, it's gonna be. They said it'll be around like just the same kind of gameplay, and I'm hoping that means that a lot of the elements they have in Awakening and Fates will be in it, and
or we hope we don't have to know how it has microtransactions. We have to pay to get every chapter signed.
No, that if they do that, like I was just kind of joking, but I was hoping it doesn't happen. That if you want a weapon, you gotta pay for that weapon. You want you want silver weapons? Oh, you gotta pay for those.
No.
Otherwise, you gotta just deal with steel weapons.
Oh my god.
Well, if you want like a really good like killing edge, no, you gotta buy that.
Yeah, let's hope not. I mean, so far they've been pretty good, I think, in terms of microtransactions, and I mean they're maybe getting a bit more heavy on certain games. I mean, I think like Fates has maybe a little too much DLC in terms of things that that might have should have been free or included in the game, but I guess we'll see. It'll be upcoming.
Yeah, I think the worst example is probably like the Bravely Default or Bravely Second. They have the worst microtransactions, especially Bravely Default, where you had to pay for like the extra. What was it? I can't remember off the top of my head because you haven't played it. So you spend like $2, you get like points for something in the game. You can unlock through like it takes like a few battles to get it.
Okay.
But you can actually pay money and then
okay, so you skip ahead basically. Yeah, no, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it was a big part. It wasn't a big part of the gameplay, but it was something that made the game a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So some people did pay money for that.
All right, speaking of paying money, let's do a little rapid fire sort of Nintendo's year so far, looking back a bit on some of the games that have recently come out.
All right.
So let's start with Fates, or a game that seems to keep on going because they have a second map pack coming out in a couple weeks.
Actually, it's already
already out, but I think stretching into June.
Yeah.
And I'm still on Revelations. So I'm on, I beat Conquest, beat Birthright. Now I'm on the 3rd one, so I'm still playing this game. And I feel like a lot of people are in that boat. It just kind of goes on, and getting a bit tired of it. But you gotta keep going.
The DLC expands the life of the game. Well, I'm still going on the game too, but you also think that I'm also someone who put over 700 hours into Awakening.
Yeah. Oh
and
my
I think I'm almost about 400 for Fates.
Wow.
So
That's.
yeah, so it's a game I can dump a lot of time into, and I also want 100% complete it, which is so I don't do that for a lot of games, but I want 100% complete.
Never do that in this game, especially because the story is so terrible. So I.
Well, for me as one, the satisfaction you all support conversations. Normally that takes forever. So
I mean,
but something that's for me. I'm still working on that in Revelation.
I mean, I guess it was a neat thing that they made 3 games, but I hope never again. Like, let's not split a story between 3 games.
It's either that or do what they were supposed to do and, like, just buy a game and then you make the choice in the game to download
like Sacred Stones, sort of more like Sacred Stones.
No, well, because what they were supposed to do, from what I gathered, was you would buy the game, Fire Emblem, you'd play the first 6 chapters, and then you'd actually be given that choice. Like you have the choice in the game, but it locks you to certain choices. But what they're supposed to do is, in the special edition of the game, I have the choice of choosing which game to go into. And what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to download the version of that game to your 3DS, and then you play it from there.
Okay.
So you actually had the choice in the game.
Okay. You mean instead of us paying money?
Well, you still have to pay money,
No.
but it would have been less money, I believe, something like that. But then Nintendo's like, yeah, we want money, so
yeah.
let's split into 3 games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out. I mean, the game has good sales. I mean, it's been received well, of course.
Yep,
So
I think it's the fastest-selling Fire Emblem series, Fire Emblem game in the series, which not very surprising. I think it was 600,000 units first weekend or first week, something like that. That's already like outpaced Awakening really quickly. But I don't think it has the same staying power as Awakening though. I think Awakening sold more consistently through even like a few months after launch. Awakening still selling really consistently.
Okay.
Finally, like Fates is not doing as well, but I mean the initial week was still really good. So.
And let's see, Pokken tournament came out in March. So you've been digging into that. So
a little bit.
A few thoughts on that game?
I haven't played a ton of it, so but like if I'm missing like certain things, we have to forgive me about that. But for a Pokemon, as a Pokemon fan growing up, like I always kind of wanted, I think a lot of people wanted, was like a Pokemon fighting game where basically you're able to control your Pokemon. That's something that I know I wanted to do, because especially after when watching the show, you kind of wanted to be able to control your Pokemon, kind of like they did in the show, and this is the kind of an opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, the roster is really small, and it's like something like I think it's like 12 Pokemon. It's not very big. You have support Pokemon, but I mean, they only come in for like 2 seconds. So, and the fighting system it's fun, but it might take a little time to get used to it. And it didn't do very well in the arcades in Japan. I think it's already out of arcades, which is crazy. That it lasted like all of 2 months, but. If you're a fan of Pokemon and you always wanted to be able to have an actual fight, like one-on-one with each other, you're actually able to control your Pokemon, this is what is for you.
Alright. And I guess we'll briefly mention Twilight Princess HD, now the second port on the Wii U of a Zelda game.
This is your territory. I haven't played mine yet. It's still sitting in my box so I'm like, that Wolf Wheel was so nice. I don't want to open it.
Yeah, ours is still not open because we know it's the only reason we bought the game, because they said it will be incorporated Zelda Wii U, and
now Zelda NX.
Well, it's interesting that like when they announced the Wolf Link amiibo, is that basically depending on how you did in the dungeon that you use the Wolf Link amiibo, and like that score or time, whatever, that somehow affects the NX Zelda, which that is such a strange way of incorporating like the data. So I'm kind of curious to see like what does it do. I hope it's more than just a weapon. Like I hope it's something kind of interesting.
Maybe it gives you like a big wallet or something.
Yeah, I mean I think it's just a neat way, and it's something I think maybe other future games that incorporate amiibos. It's a good way of sort of a bit of continuity, and also encouraging people to sort of keep buying games in that franchise. So it's a neat thing. I played some of it of HD, Twilight Princess HD. It looks good. Obviously now it's on the Wii U. Our original one was we had the Wii version.
So did I. I have both versions now, but I played the Wii version the most.
So I mean, there's been some issues. People said something like the shadows and lighting effects in the game are a bit off on the Wii U, but I mean, it's still a great Zelda game. It's still great. Of course, just like with Wind Waker, a gamepad is still convenient to switch between items and maps and things. So in some ways the best use of the gamepad for so many games is just
It's just Zelda style. It's just have the inventory on the menu.
and looking at maps. So that's good. So yeah, it's still a great game, and
It's one of my favorite Zeldas.
though it makes me wonder that Nintendo's running out of these kind of big games to make HD ports of, because we got a port of this and we'll make does that mean Skyward Sword will get ported next? I mean, I think it's too soon for that.
I wait for Kid Icarus Uprising to get HD.
Oh, a port to a console?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd buy that.
Yeah, I would love that, especially if the multiplayer was fun for while it lasted. But
It was fun. I mean, maybe Sakurai I can make that his next game after.
well, he's already working on something new, but he hasn't said what it was. Just imagine being Smash Bros. For NX already. After almost killing himself for the Wii U version, he just makes the new one for NX already.
I like to think they give him a break, especially.
You hope so.
All right, so ready to dive into Star Fox Zero.
All
Alright, so yeah, our main discussion today is Star Fox Zero, released on the Wii U. We'll try our best to limit spoilers to one section of the review. We'll give you a heads up if you want to pause, and we'll also include it in our video description.
Hopefully I'll be able to add an annotation or something, or like some kind of notice in the description for you to skip it. And then I'll put another note in where we get back to a spoiler-free discussion.
Mm-hmm. Zero was produced by Nintendo in collaboration with Platinum Games, the makers of great action games like Bayonetta and The Wonderful 101. This is the first Star Fox game in 9 years if you exclude the port of Star Fox 64 and the 3DS. The game was announced at E3 in 2014. After delay in November 2015, it was released on April 22nd. The game seems to have been mired in controversy since it was announced, not least because of the implementation of some new and controversial controls centered on the gamepad. So is this the comeback we've been waiting for, or does Nintendo need to go back to drawing board once again for Star Fox? So, Nathan, let's get some initial thoughts.
Well, I remember playing it last year at Fan Expo in Toronto, so it at the time, maybe it's because I feel like I'm a gamer that doesn't have issues with a lot of people have issues with. Like, people said, oh, I got hand cramps with Kirby Uprising. I'm like, really? I never had that issue with that. I didn't need the stands or anything like that. A lot of people complained about the wrist injuries after playing Kirby Uprising. Well, that's just seriously. Some people said that. I remember that being
my hand was sore sometimes, but I never got injured.
No, I never had that. Like, it was in like almost every single review for that game, and then that's why I feel it didn't do well, because everybody's like, it hurts your hands.
It sold well.
Well, it sold fairly well, but at the same time, I feel like it done a lot better if people didn't say, oh, it causes your hand to hurt. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so when I played at Fan Expo, it seemed fine to me. I got used to the game pretty quickly. Got the second highest score of the day from the booth. But yeah, a lot of people immediately had issues with Star Fox Zero's controls, which, like...
I mean, let's just explain a bit for people who aren't familiar with the game what the controls are.
Alright, so the controls, basically, in previous Star Fox games, the way you would point to your ship is basically where you would shoot, right? But in this game, you have the option... Well, it's rather not really an option, it's just you have to do it. You have to tilt your gamepad in a direction you want to shoot in. So, for me, that was already a little bit odd, because that means your laser's coming out, like, on your side of your ship for some reason.
And you gotta monitor two screens. The television shows sort of a wide angle, whereas gamepad shows sort of up close in the cockpit, looking around.
Yeah, so basically, what Nintendo has said about the game is, basically you look at the TV screen for your, like, general information, and then precision aiming will be handled through the gamepad. Like, basically, this is what Nintendo's saying, here, this is how you can use the gamepad, because a lot of people complain that you're not making use of this thing, so... Mm-hmm. So here's Nintendo saying, here, you can use the gamepad to control your aim.
Yeah, and, I mean, even after the delay and everything, I mean, that was one of the biggest issues, was people do not like the way this game is controlled. In fact, I think, really, if you look at the coverage this game has gotten and looking at reviews, both, I guess, professional and fan base, is the controls are, like, before even diving into sort of, the gameplay or anything like that, is these controls, are they good? Do people like them? Why they do this?
Yeah.
And, the controls are not that bad. They take some getting used to. And I'll say sometimes, at least for me personally, I think the R-Wing feels a bit sluggish to me, and some of the other vehicles have a bit of clanky controls. But it does not make the game unplayable. It just takes some getting used to.
Yeah, for me, it took me, like, I went through, like, about, like, three quarters of the game. Then I went back to previous levels just to make sure I got the controls down properly. After I did that, then everything became a lot easier. So I feel it's just something people have to get used to, but I feel like a lot of people are just like, this has to work right away for me, otherwise I'm not happy with it.
I mean, I actually found through most of the game, you don't even technically need to depend on motion controls, or I never felt, there were times where, of course, I'm not doing very well, and I feel like it's more because of the controls than, how good I am playing the game.
Yeah,
but for the most part, I felt
lot.
like, I was more relying mostly on television, really only using the gamepad a few points of the game where I'm like, okay, I need to use it, and I thought the balance was pretty good. There were a few moments which, like, bothered me, a few boss fights especially. I actually found the most trying part was when is all range mode. When you're forced to all range mode is on a fixed position, you're circling a boss, and you have to search the gamepad. That I felt was the most troubling thing to get your sort of head around, is because you're flying in sort of a different direction, and you have to aim, and that's actually to me gave me the most trouble.
It's weird. That's weird that you say. Well, it's not weird, but it's interesting to me that you would use the TV primarily. I actually use the gamepad primarily, but just POV. I like because. I know, like, I couldn't pay attention to what's going on the TV, but I feel like the gamepad does on the screen stuff just does a decent job of giving.
Yeah, it works.
The heads-up display.
Mm-hmm. And I think it should be said, as an aside about the controls, it does open up a few things which I think should be said, like the fact that people say it didn't add anything to the controls. Well, think about it. When you play the old games in all range mode, you never circled enemies or bosses. You basically would go up to a boss, hit the brake, pound the enemy, and then kind of fly around and come back and forth, right?
Yeah.
You never actually, but you never circled an enemy. And I think that does open up the playing field. It does open up sort of techniques and tactics of sort of facing enemies. Same with, I think, one of the best features of the game is sort of when you do dogfights start off. At first, I thought it was very, very strange of trying to fight them, of aiming, and like now of not having a map anymore, and like, but then after, especially when getting used of the precision aiming, and the fact that you can lock on an enemy from behind, and just it actually made the dogfights with Star Wolf more intense and a bit more entertaining and thrilling, because now you can sort of watch your maneuvers from sort of behind the camera and see what you're doing and react to them. And there was even something I actually missed, but sometimes when you're flying really close, the game would kind of slow down, and it would sort of show a mini cutscene of sort of a chicken when you sort of be rolling over each other.
Yeah. And
it was just a few neat things like that you couldn't really do, I think, with one screen. So
it's a bit more cinematic that way.
Yeah, it does open up. Now, was that sort of a good trade-off for a lot of people? Probably not buying the game at all because of the controls. Probably not. But I do think Nintendo should get some credit for trying to innovate. I mean, I don't necessarily think this was the right franchise to do it, considering every game in this franchise practically has been played differently and used a different kind of controls, and has whether it was Star Fox Adventures being basically a Zelda game, or Star Fox Assault being multi-vehicle and on foot that no one liked, and Star Fox Command being this kind of weird RTS with the DS and using the stylus to do barrel rolls, and now we have this. I mean, it really isn't.
It's like the experimental series. We'll just like see what kind of weird things we could put into all these games.
Yeah, and
just for fun.
And it probably wasn't the time to do that, considering it's been, as I said,
it's been 9 years.
It's been 9 years.
Since the last one.
You want to get the franchise back. Most people now know Fox just from that guy from Smash that people use too much. I mean, most people who play Star Fox only know Star Fox 64. And I think that's another thing about this game is, of course, it's basically a remake of Star Fox 64 again, which was a remake of the Star Fox on SNES. So, if you count, this is really our 4th time of sort of going through over the same territory. And that's another thing I think a lot of people have an issue with. Is like, why are we getting this game again? We've played it so many times.
It's so good though. Just 64 was such a great landmark game.
It is. I mean, I'll say it. I mean, it's my favorite game of all time. And Star Fox is one of my favorite franchises. Don't ask me why. Maybe one day on a future podcast I'll explain why I like this franchise so much. But 64 is my favorite game, and I'm always looking for things that kind of come close and bring that magic of that sort of intense style of play and that quirky dialogue that I've memorized, and going to different planets. It's just a good, fun game overall. And yeah, and I want to say, just if we're going to get into a bit of sort of looking at, is this game just a straight out remake? Yes, in many ways it is a remake in the sense that the dialogue is practically the same, the story is practically the same, but most locations are completely different, and the way you approach the levels are completely different from 64. Out of the 12 main planets, there's, I think, only really 3 that are kind of like exactly the same as 64.
I'm memorizing that too. Because I went to Fortuna, and Fortuna is completely different than it is in 64. It's like I think Fortuna in 64 was like a snow planet, and then in this one it's like
it was just a dogfight between.
It's a jungle overworld or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that was just the whole translation mistake of Fortuna.
Fortuna and Ficina being
yeah,
different.
and now they're two separate planets.
Yeah, because Ficina is now the snow planet.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
But yeah, most levels really play differently. Just it's Corneria, Titania, and a bit of Venom that of course play quite similar. But most of the other levels, of course, have homages. I think to the original game in many ways. But most of them are.
Sector Y was I think had a little couple of homages too.
Yeah.
Or Sector Alpha basically being. Was Sector Alpha the second one after Corneria? The one after Corneria was Sector Alpha.
Yes.
That one was basically like Sector Y.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Sector Gamma is like Area 6 on Infinite Boost. And
yeah.
So, and Asteroid Belt, or I think it's Sector Omega, I believe, when you face the missiles. It's pretty much like Sector Z. So there are a lot of homages, but most of the levels are quite different. I mean, I didn't feel like I'm going through the same territory again. I mean, homages were good.
The way you tackled them was different too, and there were like new elements was thrown in to make it different.
So I think that's one part of the game that has been looked over, and I think it's one reason for people to check it out at least. It's like, I mean, it is similar, but I think it's different enough that it's not like they just got lazy and really just did Star Fox 64 3DS on the Wii U and changed the title.
Yeah.
And but I mean, I'm just gonna say, I mean, for me, because they did do this port sort of remake, I did kind of think after playing it that I wish there were a few more of the classic levels from 64 incorporated in a new way. Like
it's like if you want to make it a remake, just go all the way with it, right?
Well, something I mean, Zonus, for example, went from this kind of really interesting level in 64 where you're showing the searchlights and this sort of poisonous bog you're going through. I think is one of the levels that really stood out in 64.
Yeah, it really did.
To now it's a stealth mission with the stupid copter that you only use in one level, the gyrocopter.
Yeah. I actually kind of like Zonus though. It was something new,
God, it takes forever to play though.
It takes forever, but you know what? It was still cool. Like I didn't feel really frustrated with Zonus.
I didn't feel frustrated, but it's like you only use the copter once. I mean, I think that's one of the issues with the game is that all these new vehicles introduced, which is sort of one of the big new things, like the walker, and the gyro wing, and then the Gravmaster, the flying landmaster.
The Gravmaster used like once at the end. Ficina,
use it on Titania. I mean, but you don't have to use them. You can use it back in Titania to do some other things.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary. It doesn't change the gameplay at all. The walker, I feel like the walker has the most potential. And especially, I remember the first trailer where it shows like the R-Wing transforming the R-Wing, the walker's like blowing up things on a ship and flying away.
Yeah.
And you really only do that like once in the game. And I feel like there was never a point in the game where I felt like I could have used the walker to make a difference. Most times, like I'm just gonna use the R-Wing. It makes more sense. Like it's not between the walker isn't practical a lot. Even the first level where you're still kind of supposed to use the walker, it's like no, I can just use the R-Wing. The walker doesn't. It's not necessary really.
I actually got kind of used to the walker. I like kind of using it just in those tight spaces, especially.
I mean, it's great sometimes when you're facing Star Wars, you can just turn the walker and just flap your wings in space and then transform back. And it does look quite smooth, going from walker to R-Wing. Like that was quite
that was a nice transition. That doesn't feel like clunky at all.
But I wish it was used more. And I think one of the reasons why it wasn't was, of course, the best way we would have used it was to have sort of more city-based missions, right? Like kind of like Star Fox Assault, where you would explore cities and caverns. But no one probably wants that again because people didn't like that in Star Fox Assault. Like, do you really want to have a very long level where it's going to be basically on foot, so to speak, where you're going to use the walker and like explore caverns, destroy enemies? I mean, I guess I personally would have liked a bit of that, like make it more versatility.
Yeah, but more places like Area 3 would have been nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean I think that was one of the best levels was you got to use all three vehicles, and there was in some ways after you go back to there are different ways to approach the level.
Yeah.
But I just think again I think it's because this game was rushed. I mean I think there could have been more. They could have done more. I mean, especially because they were adding some new elements and creating these things with the vehicles. I feel like they probably could have added some different things.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of levels are kind of just space. Just you're in space doing different things. I mean, really, there's not a lot of like planetary levels. I think it would have been nicer to explore planets. I think that's one of the more fun things about Star Fox is
Yeah, providing different ways to tackle it, which I'm glad is they still kept the fact that you can tackle levels a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Some levels you can, especially some levels where you get to a secret boss and then you have to do like another level after that, where it's entirely different from a lot of other
the hidden
levels.
routes.
Yeah, the hidden ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the best parts of this game is they did bring back, I think, the hidden route system and the medals, I think, quite well. I think Star Fox, at least for the hidden routes, I think that's something that is really endearing for a lot of fans, was discovering those secret paths and going through. Of course, was different. They use, it's sort of incorporating the story with the portal system.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as fluid, so to speak, as 64, where it's kind of natural while you go different levels. This one, it's sort of like forced upon you.
Yeah, it's not like when the old one we get a mission accomplished, and that's basically how you got the better route.
It's not really natural in this game. A lot of times it's sort of like sudden, sort of like thrown in the middle of the level. It's like, okay, now I can leave suddenly do a different thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's still a nice thing. I would have liked a few more kind of, again, sort of traditional styles. I mean, there's only 2 levels in the game where you have this sort of the traditional kind of break, where if you do 1 or 2 different things, now you go to a different planet.
Yeah.
But maybe the next game they'll do that again.
Yeah, well, another thing that was cool about this game is that after you play a level, you can go back and do it in co-op mode. And a lot of people actually really praised the co-op mode for just being really simple.
Co-op's one of the best parts of the game. It's like, want to play traditional controls, play co-op.
Yeah, because I was actually just hanging out with my friends yesterday, and like my friend didn't really like how Star Fox Zero was being played, but as soon as we switched to co-op mode, he was like, wow, this is great. Why couldn't the rest of the game play like this? It just took a lot of the nuances of the controls and just left it up to one person. Mm-hmm. So basically one person would fly and have a laser, the other person would be able to also have a laser, but it'd also be able to charge shots. And that would be the person on the gamepad doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it works out well, and I mean, I think one of the sort of funniest moments I realized was I had a lot of trouble with the final boss because the controls. I mean, I had some difficulty.
Andros was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was as memorable as the original. I mean, I would have wished for,
fight his brain again.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was 2 paths to Venom. Like, why did we get one ending? Like, why couldn't we have multiple? But guess I'm asking for too much these days. But anyway, and I invited my 2 friends over, and I said, here, play co-op and do it. And then they had a much easier time than me, facing it. And like, we won't spoil anything, but just like, it's much easier with co-op of facing that final boss than having one person.
It's so much easier having one person just be able to aim traditionally, like with Star Fox 64 controls, than one person on the gamepad doing it the new way. It makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that sort of brings up, sort of people's problems with this game. It's like, why can you do this in the first place? Why do they make it hard on us to play this game? But, I mean, I don't think it ruined the game completely for me. And, like, in some ways, it's even though I have some issues with this game, and I personally wish they made a brand new game with a new story. I mean, I hope the next one, like, please make a new game. I hope now they can't go back to this because they've done it twice now, with a 3DS port in this. But this is probably going to be in the franchise, it's going to be, it's as close to 64 as I guess you can get in this day and age.
Without actually being 64.
Yeah, I think, for most part.
That's why they went with Zero, I think. Well, they said Zero was cool, and that was kind of like, we don't want to specifically say this is Star Fox 64 again. Yeah. But it's called Zero.
And I I'll say, as someone, again, I said 64 is my favorite game, and there were a lot of things in Zero I really liked. There was, I think the medal system was one of the best parts, because in the old game you got a high score medal. Now you have 5 medals per level, 1 for high score, 1 for finding sort of 3 medals scattered throughout.
Yeah, then the other one is getting the mission accomplished, which is a secret goal you have to accomplish in the mission.
And then 2 just from randomly doing different things.
Yeah.
And they are hard to find. There are no clues. I mean, for a lot of these things. Like, I bought the guidebook because, I'm stupid. And I'm just, like, after a playthrough, I got quite a few levels, a couple runs. I'm like, all right, let's go see how to get some of these. Wow, some of these medals are ridiculous. Like, there is no way you'd find them on your own. Like, there's no clues, and especially some of the mission accomplished. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, because I remember getting one yesterday. I was playing with my friends. I got one on Zonus, but I have no idea what I did right. Because when I was playing it with my copy, every single time I did Zonus, I got mission complete. Then yesterday I got mission accomplished. I was like, what did I do differently? I thought I attacked this level the same way as I did before. Mm-hmm. So, they don't give you a clue of what to do. But, like, in the old 64, it was obvious, but you could tell that there was certain ways to get it. Like, on Canary, you had to fly through the arches and save Falco. But that was just something you kind of did just for fun, right? Just fly through the arches and then you get mission accomplished. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a good. I think it does add a lot of replay value to the game, like getting the medals.
Yeah, it's trying to find the medals and then getting them.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
But I will say, I think some of the unlockables with the medals, I'm pretty disappointed because traditionally with Star Fox, you got some cool things. I mean, usually they're multiplayer oriented, which of course isn't in this game, which I think is a big.
That's a sore point.
Yeah, I mean, it's because the game pack, like we can't have 2 game pads operate with the Wii U, so no multiplayer. Let's get rid of it completely. And in Star Fox 64, you got to lock the Landmaster and on foot after getting all the medals in the original and then expert mode. Yeah. In Star Fox Assault, you locked some other multiplayer options like playing as different characters and weapons, and it's really cool. And this one, you unlock more training missions.
Basically, just kind of like just time trials, or basically get all of these with a certain time limit kind of thing.
That's a really, I'm sorry, shitty incentive for me to go get all the medals. Like, really, you couldn't add anything else.
Yeah, because it was cool. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's cool just going back through in the original game, or 64, and getting all those unlockables and getting them in different ways. So. And
I just, I think, really, you couldn't put anything, and there's no expert mode either. Like, we could have at least gotten expert mode.
Yeah, the only way to really get expert mode is just using the Falco amiibo if you happen to have one.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can just sort of briefly touch on that since we brought up amiibos. The amiibos are, a pretty fun way. You mentioned the Falco amiibo, which gives you the black R-Wing, which pretty much has half the health bar, but kind of double lasers. And it is kind of like a novelty, I guess, since playing, but it's pretty fun to use. Like, there are a few levels, I'm going to try this out, to get my high score and get the medals, and it's pretty fun to play just because you could die so quickly, but it's so powerful that I enjoy using it. It. As you said, it is sort of like the expert mode.
Yeah. Then if you have Fox movie, we also locked the retro R-Wing, which is another interesting thing where you don't have charge shots, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it has sort of traditional bombs, as the kind of classic blue and white large explosions.
Yeah.
And on the original level on Corneria plays the SNES theme.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. And the walkers all look like the one from Cancer Star Fox 2, so that's a neat little thing they put in there. That's a cool thing they put in. I mean, I guess some people are like, amiibos don't add anything, but I think it could be worse. It could have. I mean, at least they added something. Could have just been a skin with nothing else.
Yeah. Actually, I was want to ask. I was kind of curious about something. I'm not sure if you knew or not, but apparently you can unlock the retro amiibo, retro R-Wing, and the black R-Wings through gameplay. That's what my friends told me.
Yeah, that's what you get for getting all 70 medals.
Okay. So you can get it. It's just getting the hard to get medals.
I mean, I don't.
Well, that's a good reward for getting all the medals.
Well, I mean, they've done this in a few games now where they I think I'm trying to think of another one, not Smash, but not Chibi Robo, but there's a couple. There's
what are you thinking of?
Not Yoshi.
You unlock amiibos giving you certain things.
Yeah, that's usually the they add that as the last unlockable thing you get now.
Oh,
so
okay.
you can unlock amiibo function traditionally without having to buy the amiibos.
Oh, okay. I can't remember what games there were.
Yeah, there's another game I played recently where they had that. I can't remember, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't like that. I mean, I don't like that. It's cool if people don't have it because I think that's a pretty cool reward. I guess is unlocking these different skins, get all other medals.
Yeah.
But as someone who bought them both, I'm like, I guess I get to use them throughout the game, which I guess is kind of. I guess that's cool, right? But and I guess it would be unfair if they say added a reward for the people who have them. People get really upset, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like with Highway Warriors. You can actually get the Link amiibo. It gives you the spinner weapon, which you can't get through any other means, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can't unlock it through normal gameplay. It's only through Link amiibo. So I think a lot of people were kind of angry at that.
But and I guess we'll probably talk about it in the future, that the sort of balance Nintendo has to make with amiibo. It's on one hand rewarding the mass of people who bought them, but on the other hand, people who didn't buy any, but say don't make it so the buy something to get a piece of cool content.
Yeah. So Hard Wars kind of does it with if you buy any amiibo, you get extra materials and stuff like that, or you can just unlock them through regular gameplay.
That's nothing. No, that's. Not...
But that's still it's kind of a way of balancing it.
Yeah. I think Hard Warriors has one of the best ways of using amiibos.
Yeah, if you use any amiibo, then you're going to get it.
But yeah, so I'm not too happy about that as unlockables. And I think it's just another thing we should bring up about this game is I think it made a few changes to the franchise, which I think were good. And, this is the 6th game in the franchise. Yes.
That's what? Is the 6th game? Was SNES to 64 Adventures Assault.
I'm not counting the port of...
Not counting the port?
Yeah.
The command. Yeah, this is the 6th one.
And so first of all, I think a lot of people had complaints that your teammates were useless. And they still are, basically. Like, they don't really help you that much. In fact,
No,
I think they
no.
help you even less in this game, it seems.
Yeah, like I remember at least in 64 they would shoot down like a couple enemies and
Yeah. I mean, they still give you the boss meter, and
Yeah.
Peppy gives you advice, which you probably can figure out yourself.
Yeah, then Falco's just annoying. He's just like, come on, my Falco, get good at this. Fox, get good.
But this time, they actually add points to your score, so depending on their health at the end of the mission, they could have potentially 30 points to your final score, and that's pretty crucial to get some medals.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really good way of like making it an incentive, like save your teammates, they add points to your score. So that was a smart thing they did.
Yeah,
I like that.
I remember in 64 that was also a way. I think you couldn't get a medal in a level if one of your teammates went down.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think 64 had that. And Assault also had ally medals, where if you got all 10, you unlocked things, so you had to save your allies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like the way they did in this game. Also, I think I said I like the additional medals. It's like in Star Fox Assault, where you had to find 5 flags in each medal. So, again, it's another incentive to replay levels and things. So I think that's
one thing Star Fox does really well is be very replayable.
Mm-hmm. And again, I said like I like the walker. I wish it was used more. I think I mean we can mention this sort of as we get to the end, but I think there's a lot of potential with this franchise of things they could do, and I think this game doesn't really present much as like what could be done in the future.
Yeah, like I would love to see Star Fox become something bigger, like something like it seems like Nintendo can't really seem to figure out their sci-fi series, which is kind of weird. Like Metroid is also kind of just hanging in the air, and yeah, for Star Fox we can see more. Like I'm not sure if we'll see more after this, but
yeah,
hopefully it won't be another 9 years.
Sales don't look very good. But yeah, I mean that's the shame because it's a sci-fi series, so you can go anywhere. You can explore what kind of planets. You can go outside the Lilac system. So I think. You could really make some lush locations. You can really, have Fox explore these weird places. I mean, that's one of the cool things I think people liked about 64. There's these weird planets. Like, you fly over a sun and solar. You go into some toxic dump of Zonus. You go into sort of industrial area of Macbeth when you destroy a train, which... Why they should have
that was so satisfying. I love that.
Yes, they should have brought that back, but no...
you can blow up that factory. It's so good.
So satisfying. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, because... Star Fox, it's a mercenary team. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be just defeat the baddie. Like, it could be a bit more, I think, open world concept where, like, why couldn't we have Fox explore cities and maybe, like, accept missions from different people?
Yeah,
and
it's kind of make an RPG out of it or something.
Yeah, there's one game, which I'm sure most people probably aren't familiar with. It was released on DS when I last called Solo to Robo. I don't know if you heard of it.
I have.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a game?
I don't have it. I haven't played it, but I know of it.
Okay. So it's this game on DS, and it's not a shooter like Star Fox. It's basically like kind of an adventure game, and anyway, but it's sort of they're a mercenary team, and it's like you have missions, you do story-related stuff, but then there's also like ports where you can go explore and do things and interact with citizens, and you get unlock stuff and upgrade your like little mech suit or whatever. And it's a really fun, charming game. But I just like the idea of in between story or mission elements, you can go and explore the open world, accept quests, and do stuff. I think Star Fox will lend itself really well. I think you could accept missions from other clients, make money, and maybe do things like upgrade the Great Fox, or maybe
R-wing adjustment, or unlock, or even bring back more stuff from this game, like unlock the walker functionality.
Yeah, unlock different weapons.
Be able to hack stuff with your walker.
Yeah, or even maybe certain missions or different objectives could be unlocked by doing in-game stuff. Like, I mean, of course, you'd have to somehow incorporate, I guess, in the more traditional Star Fox play. Like maybe you could still have some classic on rails levels, but I just think. There's some really good opportunity there to make something dynamic and bring in different fans.
So something new that would help out.
And I mean, there's a few moments in this game where I think they try that. Like I already mentioned, the Star Wolf battles I think are quite epic. There's one. I mean, I'll say. I guess this would be a spoiler, but there is one unlockable level where you get to play as Peppy. And it's a
lot of people's favorite level.
Yeah,
from right here, I haven't unlocked it yet, but I still gotta do that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's basically it's one of those. Most of the levels that are alternative levels in Zero, they're really short, and they're usually just facing a boss. So you get to play as Peppy, and he pretty much every time you do a barrel roll, he says, "Do a barrel roll," constantly. And it's just
That's the best line.
It's like the weirdest thing. It's like a joke or something they threw in there. And it's fun. It's just fun to play as Peppy. I mean, that was one of the best things about Star Fox Command on DS. We got to play as all the different characters.
Yeah.
And I think I played this level, and I beat the boss. Like, oh, this was really fun. Why couldn't we have more of this in Zero? Like, I would have liked to see a few different levels who plays different characters. Like, why couldn't we have a level where Falco and Cat go off and do something? Because they have a past, but they only just barely, vaguely hint about.
And then, or something with Bill. Like,
Yeah.
Bill is really underused in this game.
Yeah, Fox and Bill could have had a level, or even, maybe some unlockable level with James, Pigma, and Peppy going to Venom, like a little.
That'd be cool, like a flashback.
Yeah,
flashback level.
Because they keep hinting that, a spoiler for anyone who never has played a game, that Fox's father is alive, and they have hinted in every game. Like, couldn't we have? It'd be nice to have a level that kind of like, go into that past and like play a bit. I mean, I think that'd be interesting. But we don't really get a lot of that in this game. I just think that's a missed opportunity. And I guess another final thing is I like to know is like what did Platinum Games do in this game, because I don't really see much of their influence, Nathan.
The only thing I can really see is like Platinum Games known for like creating because just to do all these really different art styles. If you look at all the games they've made recently, if they made Bayonetta has its own like distinct art style. Transformers Devastation, it's like it goes back to being like an '80s kind of art style. The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, they have a very unique art style. So the thing is about Platinum Games, they like introducing all these different art styles. You remember Wonderful 101 had a really good art style. So
I mean, this game certainly has a different art style, though. People hate the design because they said it's like N64 with some new paint.
And it doesn't look that bad. Like, I don't know. I think it's more just the way it's just the art. It's just the art. It's not like the graphics or anything like that.
Well, I mean, the enemies look. It's the N64 models just look a little shinier. I mean, it's. You think they could have threw in a few new things?
Well, I guess so.
I mean,
maybe like there's a few more details on like all the enemies in the game.
I mean, some of the worlds look pretty sparse, Nathan. Like some of the levels, like for a Wii U game, and like
Well, the top of it was like sector like beta or like.
Well, not the space levels. I mean, like Area 3, it's like here's some buildings that you're just gonna go walk around.
Well, yeah, it's just like the walk apart level is just the hallways. So here you go.
A lot of hallways for the walker. So yeah, I mean, but the other thing, I mean, like Platinum Games known for these big action games and sort of spectacle. I'm like, I don't see a lot of spectacle in this game, and that's kind of one thing I was sort of disappointed at is that when I think of, for example, Area 6 in Star Wars 64, which is
it's just crazy.
It's crazy level where
just
enemies
stuff everywhere, lasers,
everywhere. And I didn't really feel a lot of that in this game. I really didn't feel level. The only level that came close was
sector beta. That level where or is it Omega? You only just flying.
Yeah,
like, super speed through the whole level. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna shoot at things.
Yeah, and a bit of playing Corneria the second time, like that had a bit of a chaotic feel to it. Yeah,
still not as bad as Sector Omega.
Yeah,
or whatever.
But I never got a sense of like just like the screen's covered in enemies and like enemies were just like going after you, and like I never got that sense, and that's something I felt which is lacking. And I'm surprised because like this is Platinum Games; they're just sort of known for this. And like what do they do? They just add some nice lasers they have to dodge this game. Like what else do they do? So
it could have been even crazier, like stuff like Bayonetta with there's just stuff happening all the time, and you have to be really good at the game to even get good rewards. So it could have been nice to see Platinum Games influence a little more in Star Fox Zero.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, but I think the game was rushed, and Nintendo had to get something out there, and
I think it's unfortunate that Star Fox had to be the victim.
Yeah, I think they're paying the price for it. Like sales aren't doing well for this game. Scores were not very good. I mean, 6s and 7s for most people, and I think that's being generous for a lot of people. I mean, but the game is fun. That's I think the tragedy is like it's still a fun game.
It's just unfortunate that a lot of the controls issues end up hampering it because it's like I agree, it's still a really really fun game. Like I will pop that in and probably just play it whenever I feel like it.
But I mean, I'll say sort of my last thoughts. Like as a Star Fox fan, like I'm glad the game got released because I waited 9 years, so I'm happy I have something to play, and it's gonna be one of the games of the Wii U that I'm probably gonna play. Well, not the most because it means a short game, but it's something I'm gonna come back to. Probably more than some of the other Star Fox games, quite frankly.
Yeah. They probably never go back to playing Adventures or anything like that.
Oh, I've beaten that 3 times.
Yeah.
That's fun for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, as you said, I just hope we don't wait 9 years now to get the next game. Like maybe the NX they'll just bring back a traditional game. I mean,
maybe if the NX does really well, hopefully we'll see like Nintendo take a couple more risks or just cater to fans. Just give us 64 all over again.
Well, I don't know. People were pretty upset that Crystal wasn't in this game. There's a lot of Crystal fans out there.
I know there are. But like, if you wanted to make a sequel or just bring back Crystal and like, I don't know if you could.
But you want to know which ending of Star Fox Command they use? Which ending's canon?
Oh my god.
Okay.
Let's have the ending where they all get together.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think. Well, let's see. I think we're good there.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move. Before we end the podcast, let's move on to. I guess we'll discuss what Nintendo's got for the near future. I mean, it's not a whole lot. It's just about 3 games that.
It's pretty slim pickings.
Like, well, to be fair, games released in the summer are kind of rare anyway. So.
True.
But for the next, was it 2 months since May and June? We got 3 games. So we got Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE, Kirby Planet Robobot, and Metroid Prime Federation Force.
That's coming out in August.
That's in August. Oh, they pushed it back. I thought it was initially June.
No, it's August.
Okay, so, but I guess with games before the fall season, something like that.
Yeah. So Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is a terrible title.
Hey, no, I agreed that initially it was a terrible title, but hey, they put SMT in the title. That's what people wanted. It's spelled SMT, it's just spelled backwards.
Yeah, well, I never played an SMT game. Like, I only know Fire Emblem, so that never mattered to me. But, I mean, I was very skeptical of this game at first. I'm not a big RPG fan at all, and especially JRPGs. I just don't like most of them, so I was extremely skeptical of this game. It just didn't really interest me at all. And then the last few weeks, they started releasing some gameplay videos, and that's what I really wanted to see. And I have to admit that I'm actually kind of excited for this game. It looks really fun. It looks like the people in charge got to do whatever they wanted. Like, and you know, the fact it's sort of like weird kind of J-pop or J-idols, not J-idols, like
it's just J-pop idol.
Thank
idol
you.
game.
Sort of like you're playing as idols in the fighting, and like visually, I think it looks really nice, and it looks colorful. Yeah. Something we've kind of, I think that sort of art style is missing on the Wii U. There isn't really a lot of RPGs, and it looks, and what I like, which I think a lot of people don't, is it looks open enough as an RPG that you don't have to be a super big fan of Fire Emblem or SMT to get into this game, and I quite like that.
Still, a lot of people are still angry. Like, a lot of SMT fans are really, especially SMT fans, are really angry that this game is not as dark as they hoped it would be. But you know what? Like,
maybe it is. I mean, we haven't played the full.
I mean, just from what I gather, like it's still fairly dark. I mean, they still got basically the bad guys of the game is basically just draining people's life for that's how they get their energy, right? So, I mean, it's not like crazy like end of the world post-apocalyptic stuff you usually see in SMT, but as for me, this until I can hear what comes out this fall, and so I'll have to wait to E3 to decide. But as of right now, this is what I've been waiting for a long time. This game was initially, for anybody who doesn't know, this was initially announced in January of 2013. And then the Nintendo Direct for the 30-second trailer, this basically says, okay, there's a Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem crossover coming. We're not saying when it's coming out.
Oh, yeah, that trailer.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so always wait for word on it. Wait, 2013, nothing. 2014, nothing. Then 2015, we finally got a trailer in April, where this game's been basically disappeared off everybody's radar for 2 years. And we finally get a trailer, and then everybody hates it. Just look at them on dislikes on the video on YouTube. It's just kind of sad, but I still think this is gonna be a really good game. After all, this is still made by Atlus. This is still made by the main team who made Persona and all the Shin Megami Tensei games. So you know when it comes to gameplay, they can't really go wrong.
And you know, Nathan, like I like games that are sort of innovative, and I like that Nintendo takes risks on a few things. Like that's why I'm actually interested in buying this game, because it looks like a sort of more non-traditional RPG. It looks different. I mean, yeah. I think it looks really creative, and I mean, and it looks like a lot of people don't want to buy it because of that, which is a shame, because I want Nintendo to take risks. I want to.
It's like you can't win. Nintendo can't win. It's like you want to make something different, but everybody shuns it for being different. It's just it sucks. But
so I mean, we'll see in June, right? So
yeah,
and of course, June also has Kirby Robobot. Robobot. Coming out June 10th. June 12th?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
I think it's 10th to 12th.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I never have purchased a Kirby game before. The only Kirby game I've ever played, despite being a big platformer fan, is Kirby the Amazing Mirror, which I only got for free on the Ambassador program on 3DS.
It's actually a good game. I really like Amazing Mirror.
I liked Amazing Mirror too. It was fun, but Kirby's never really interested in me. It always seemed to be... They just look very plain as, like, platformers. It sort of just meshes in my head as this one giant blob of Kirby. Like the games don't stand out a lot for me compared to say like a Mario or a Donkey Kong, or sort of other platforms I'm interested in. But this game, I pre-ordered it. I want it, and it's like someone has said, let's put Kirby in a mech suit, and I don't know, it really works for me.
Japan.
It looks really fun. It's like Kirby in a mech suit, like some of the gameplay videos, like the level design looks fun, and I don't know. And then I think the way they incorporated amiibos is really good because the amiibos it's like basically like Smash where Kirby gets the power up depending on who the amiibo is.
Yeah.
And
they've already done like previous Kirby games where basically like the sword Kirby's form is basically like the Super Smash Bros. One where he jumps up and does the thing. So they've already added it in previous Kirby games, but it's the first time where you can actually put an amiibo and it actually will give you that ability directly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just looks really interesting. I mean, to be fair, like it's still basically I guess a standard Kirby game just now. Kirby's and Robot, but
yeah.
I think it's done enough that make me want to buy it, and I think it's certainly caused a bit of a buzz for some people to like pick up a new Kirby game.
Yeah, for me, like I've played Kirby games a lot. Basically, like I'm kind of the opposite of you, where I like the platforms a little easier, and Kirby like kind of fits that bill for me. Kirby's pretty easy because you just have infinite jumps. but what part I like about Kirby is just how creative the game can be. So those are the things that would just suck me into Kirby, pun intended. But yeah, the Planet Robot's another game I'll pick up later, and then, but hopefully I'll be able to play a lot more. Like I don't finish a lot of Kirby games,
but they're so short, aren't they?
but basically, if you want to get 100% Kirby games, it's actually really hard.
Oh,
like 100% in Kirby games will challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one I really finished was Superstar Ultra. That game was really hard, especially the final boss was really tough.
Yeah. And I guess since we are talking about recent games, I'll also throw out a little shout out for the last game in the oh god, sorry, the 999 Virtue's Last Reward.
Oh yeah,
and
so yeah, Zero Time Dilemma that's coming.
Thank you, Zero Time Dilemma, the final game of the trilogy. I'm glad it got made after it really looked like it was not going to be made, and it looks like they're pulling out all the stops for this one. Like it's going to be really bloody. It's going to solve all the plot issues. Not as there's plot issues, but it's going to fill in all the holes, the cliffhangers.
Yeah,
and it just looks really fun. I think it's one of the sort of best I think it's going to be probably in the end one of the best game trilogies on any console for a long time. And
yeah.
I think as a visual novel and on the handheld, I think it's one of the best games. And I really hope after this game that Nintendo keeps working with that team and make us more games, because it's one of the most compelling stories that ever played in the game. So
yeah,
really looking forward to it.
That's from what I hear. I haven't played it myself, but everyone says the games are simply amazing. And
I'm gonna have to make you do it in one of our retro reviews or something.
Retro reviews. I still, I actually have 999 and Virtue's Last Reward. I have it on DS, 999 DS, and then I have Virtue's Last Reward on 3DS.
Okay, well,
I have a rare copy of it on 3DS. It's hard to find a copy of Virtue's Last Reward now.
Yeah, it is. But good time to buy right now, because I think it's on sale for $9.99 for people who want to pick up the second one at least.
Yeah, it's like a Nintendo Spring Sale.
They really should
on that.
They really should put $9.99 on the Virtual Console so people can play that one too. I don't know why they haven't, but
maybe it's issues game from Access, maybe.
So, any thoughts on Federation Force? Coming out in August.
No.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to talk about this, but I guess we have to.
I don't really want to talk about it either. I don't think anyone wants to talk about it.
No, basically, if anybody doesn't know, Metro Prime Federation Forces will be I struggle to call it the first-person adventure game that Reggie called it for so long. I feel like this is more of just a first-person shooter.
It's like Metro Prime Hunters, except
not as
your
good.
Federation Troopers.
Yeah, and not Samus, which I think is the biggest slight to Metroid fans, that you don't play as Samus, you play as just a generic soldier.
And I don't know, it looks pretty bad for a 3DS game visually.
Oh, it looks awful. It looks like a DS game.
Yeah, it looks really clunky.
It basically looked like Metroid Prime Hunters.
But I thought that game looked pretty.
Even actually, Metroid Prime Hunters look better than Federation Force. It's got really terrible textures, and the environment is just really bland.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is sort of another case where Nintendo decided, instead of making a brand new game to make sort of go with this concept, they decided we'll take an existing franchise and sort of try and milk it and hopefully get sales off that.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's happy with this at all.
No. I know a couple people actually that actually want to play this game, but what they actually was I actually found. I almost feel bad about this, but I remember when the Wii U first came out, I remember publishing a list of games that we'll see on the Wii U or at some point later. And I said, we'll see Metroid as a first-person shooter that'll be multiplayer, and that'll be Nintendo's attempt to try and get people to play it like a first-person shooter. And I'm kind of sad to see that was true.
You're eating your words.
Yep.
Well, we got Splatoon though.
We got Splatoon, but that was a third-person shooter. I meant
okay.
specifically as a first-person shooter multiplayer game.
Okay.
But that's basically what Federation Force is.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll talk about it closer to the release date and see what it is.
Yeah, we have our next podcast whenever we can do this again.
Oh, soon enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, time for closing remarks.
All right. You want to take it, or you want me to do it?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so we got like an hour, 5 minutes. That's actually not too bad. So that's it for this week. One thing I want to give a shout out to is to Platinum Games, which the recent report says that they finally sold the 1 million copies of Bayonetta 2 on Wii U, which is great to hear. The third-party game got that kind of attention and sales.
Sad one. It's one of the best-selling games of the Wii U, I guess.
Yeah, now it's a Manga League company now.
But good that maybe that means Nintendo will perhaps take more risk on games like this. And
yeah, it's nice to know that the fans got this too, because I remember when Bayonetta 2 was first announced, and then it was close to release date. Fans were like, we should not just support the Platinum Games for doing this. We should sell 1 million copies of this game.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the fans' goal,
mm-hmm.
and I'm glad to see that it's finally come true, even if it's like 3 years after the game came out, or 2 years after the game came out. But it's great to hear that, and we're kind of hoping that Nintendo creates more partnerships like Bayonetta 2, like Tokyo Mirage Sessions in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any questions about our podcast or comments, please email us at thebigndpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our channel.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Nathan, and that's The Big N. Yeah, it's nice to know that the fans got this too, because I remember when Bayonetta 2 was first announced, and then it was close to release date. Fans were like, we should not just support the Platinum Games for doing this. We should sell 1 million copies of this game.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the fans' goal,
mm-hmm.
and I'm glad to see that it's finally come true, even if it's like 3 years after the game came out, or 2 years after the game came out. But it's great to hear that, and we're kind of hoping that Nintendo creates more partnerships like Bayonetta 2, like Tokyo Mirage Sessions in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any questions about our podcast or comments, please email us at thebigndpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our channel.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Nathan, and that's The Big